and welcome to League Teams. The eve of the Anzac Day clash, which starts off round 6, is upon us. We'll find out who comes into the teams, who goes out of the teams. Let's find out. Our panellists start at the other end, a triple premiership hero, all-round good guy, a little bit of a thug here and there.
Sir,
Lynch.
It's great to be back. Thanks for that very kind welcome.
Yeah, well, last time you were on, we talked about you and I having a dust up, and my hands are still stuffed from where you did stuff to me. But we'll get to that soon, or down the track a little bit later on. Now let's go to one of the really nice guys, the doyen, the man who we turn to with all matters football, David Parkin.
Derm, I'm delighted to be here between two idiots. No, sorry, that's not.
Geez,
that's not.
Hold on, he's over there,
That's a bit harsh.
That's it. After what you've been telling me tonight, this is it.
He's my first coach, Parko. A lot of respect for you. Can't call me that. Not off the top.
Oh, I think you got it right.
No apology, dude.
Here we go. He was the king of Moomba, but some of my teammates referred to him as an irritant. Tony Shaw.
An irritant sounds like some insect or something. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, Tony. But he
eve-
was a champ. He was an all-time great, like all of our panel members here.
And on the eve of probably the greatest day other than Grand Final Day, it is great to be here. But it is great to be here because I'm with Lynchy.
Yep.
And when I saw you on last time, I couldn't believe that you either bit him or he bit you. You couldn't.
You said
lower
I
him.
bit you, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually
Did
did. Well, no, I got a little wrong.
Hold on. Let's have a look. I might have the evidence here to see who was right or who was wrong.
Have a look.
Oh, there we go. What's going on
A
here?
young kid trying to make his way at Fitzroy at full back.
He was too big.
Been bullied. And have a look here. Knee in the head.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
Now,
Hey, what's the face? What are you doing to his face? That's disgraceful, Dermot.
look at Dermot.
He's got me in a good headlock there. He's got it locked in. I would have tapped out right about now if it was...
I was about to tap out, but look at me.
And who's that?
Hey, it's Roosie.
Rosie.
Well, the thing that I...
Roosie timed it well that it was all finished by the time he got there.
Yeah, but the problem was, for your teammate,
Hold on.
Jace, he had already had his nose in the trough at quarter time, getting a couple of oranges. He didn't come in to support you.
Hey, Pig, every time, Yabby used to always say, stay clear of the fights, but protect your little blokes and that. He never came to anyone's assistance in a stoush once.
No, he
Not
didn't.
once.
So I do have to apologise. Last time I did think that you may have bit me, but the fact that you're just tickling my tonsils with your arm, I did happen, as my mouth guard came out, I did actually bite down a little bit.
I thought I heard you say, I'm joking. I was trying to get your tongue out.
I had to pull your finger out after I bit it off.
Alistair Lynch,
So sorry about that.
one of the absolute all-time greats. Welcome, Lynchy. Okay, guys, a lot of talk this week about the state of the game. And, look, we do have some graphics here to actually put up and have a look at the way the game has gone. I'll come up right here, right now. Things are at an all-time low or high over a 10 to 15-year period. State of the game, scores at a 15-year low. We haven't been kicking this. This is the average over 5 rounds compared to the year averages, so we get enough of a comparison to draw these averages. Contested marks, they're down 15-year low, as well as the efficiency. Free kicks at a 10-year low, so we're awarding less. And throw-ins, ball-ups, 15-year high. We haven't had as many of these for 15 years, since last century. Guys, where do we see it? Lynchy, we'll start off with you. Oh, sorry, Parker.
No, I was just going to say, so you see that is an indication of a game that we, A, don't enjoy watching as much, we don't enjoy playing as much, we're making it harder for umpires, and it's probably less safe. That's what you're saying.
I love the game pretty well in whatever shape or form it takes, but I hate seeing scrap-ups, a rolling maul. I detest it. And I love seeing players go one-on-one. You would have hated seeing Peter Knight's take on Paul Vander because he kept trying to outmark him from behind, even though it was one of the great battles of all time. But now, 35 years later, off the top of my head, I still recall it. That's the great thing about our football, one-on-one battles.
And more so now, we don't see any spectators on the field whatsoever, so everyone's working back and forth. Probably the thing that stood out for me is that 10-year low on free kicks. We have noticed that in the first 5 rounds there has been a real leniency as far as free kicks are concerned, certainly in the congestion. And from our point of view as key forwards or defenders over the years, we've seen a leniency where it was really difficult for the full-backs as far as tapping of the arms and pushes in the back. Now it's gone the other way. I think they're allowed to hit the arms a bit more. more, there is the hands on the back, and that's either way for forwards and defenders, where that is a rule. You actually, in a marking contest, you're not allowed to place your hand on the back. We've seen that on numerous occasions.
Slackened?
Yes, slackened. So I think there's been a latency. I'm sure as we see year after year with these focuses on rules, it'll soften and it'll come back halfway through the year. But
The
I
one
think
thing I'd have-
need to pay the free kicks that are there, though.
The one thing I often hang my hat on and say, gee, I'd love to play now is
The chap, yeah.
chopping it, but that's now been slackened as well.
Has been softened. I mean, I want to see, and I don't want to get the stage, and the example is the hands on the back in a marking contest. That's either a free kick or it's not. And so you've got to pay that. We don't want to see it in an important stage of the game. Someone places the hand on the back, which is a free kick, and let go. A big forward takes a mark on the goal square.
If it's there, pay it.
Absolutely, you've got to pay it, and I think that's probably leads to the congestion that we see in the middle of the ground, which allows, because there's free kicks not being paid, more and more players are getting in.
That's the area we're worried about the maul. Don't worry about the marking, all that, because a lot of that.
Oh, you wouldn't because you're
no, but over 10 years that's deteriorated. It hasn't happened in the last 18 months.
Yeah.
I've got two things. One, it was trial 15 years ago. You know about it. It was if you lose your footing in the pack and you grab the ball on your knees or while you're on the ground, free kick against. That will teach coaches, or they'll teach their players to keep their feet at the contest, which is already protected by a bloke sliding in under the knees. You get a free kick. The other one I'd like in the back half of the 50, and it's not, they're not big rule changes. If you kick the ball backwards in the back of the circle, okay, you kick the ball backwards, it is play on straight away. What that does adds to the excitement of the pressure coming to the ball carrier. He has to kick it either quickly short and hit the target so the intercept's on, or get it out long and bomb it. Now, if he does that, we might see someone take an overhead bloody mark for once and jump on someone's head. And that keeps the ball flowing. There are only two little rules. Everybody wants to do this zoning. Can you imagine a zone where there's a stoppage in the middle, Parko, and we've got three blokes running back to the 50-metre arc? You would do the Marcel Marceau impersonation at top. Nick Rewalt runs.
All I said was if you do have the zone, Nick Rewalt,
out to the 50
part
arc.
of his modus operandi is to drill run his opponent to death, and then he marks it out in front. He runs up and he has to look sideways and he recognises, well, can't go, and he stops at the 50-metre line. He can't go over, reverse, otherwise he gives a free
he
kick.
goes like that.
That's part of his skill set, being able to drill run players, opponents across the ground. Parker.
I went to 3 games at the weekend. 3 I saw live, and I loved each one of them. The last one, of course, was Geelong and Hawthorn, which I thought was a great game. But the one in Sydney, between Freo and Sydney, was good. The one between Carlton and I enjoyed them as games. I only want to do one thing, is to lengthen the kick, double it from 15 to 30, because it puts a bit more pressure and uncertainty on the game. These little ones that nobody cares about, they go and stand on the mark, don't even try and contest it. Get rid of that. Boring as hell. If you extend the kick a bit further, a bit more uncertainty will come into the game. That's the only one I want to touch.
Quite possibly the most sensible suggestion we've heard in some time.
So mine were?
Yours is
thanks a lot.
it passes, yes.
Philosophically, I don't like the idea of changing rules to mitigate trends in
It's
the
better
game.
than having zoning like some of these older people who have been on committees and want to ruin the game.
Yeah, we can't go anywhere near that.
No, okay.
Yeah, and I'm all dead set against pairing the numbers back. You get a distortion of history if you take away the winners.
He never got out of the 50 whether he was forward or back.
He's clipped me again.
I've got one to come too.
You got chronic fatigue syndrome at a very handy time in your career, didn't you? Let's go to our first game, and it is an absolute beauty. It is at Friday, 2:40 p.m. You can watch it right here. It is one of the triple-headed day for Anzac Day. Collingwood take on Essendon. It is a wonderful, wonderful game. The Collingwood team, as they appear, Shorey, let's go through them.
No change. Working beautifully at the moment, the Pies, after that Fremantle smashing in the first round. Belted North Melbourne. That game was over in 15 minutes, plus 21 contested possessions for the game. They're marking the ball inside 50. Clokey comes back into the form. And the other big one, number one in intercept marks, which we know is pretty important if you're going to set up a defence, and that's because they're playing team defence. And one player I want to look at, Alex Fasolo. They lost Heath Shaw. Maybe Fasolo, Nathan Buckley sees something that Heath Shaw had and had to bring back in this hole. This is his heat map from 213. As you can see, on the right is the Collingwood forward line, played mostly as the forward, and this is the impact he had in last week's game. 33 possessions, boys, but have a look at that. What the great thing I love about him, he's a one grabber, he's got good evasive skills, he uses the ball beautifully, and he's got poise. Now we're just going to find out whether he can play on maybe the dangerous small forwards, but I reckon it's a fantastic move for Collingwood.
Just a quick analysis on him. Why didn't he truly cut it and dominate as a skillful, really talented half forward that can be rectified and turn him into a skillful, excellent
Travis
backman?
Cloke. They went to Travis Cloke 43 or 44% of the time when they weren't having their best years. So that's the reason. It's hard as a small forward at Collingwood. Elliott's doing it a different way even at this stage.
Let's take a look at the Essendon team now, the ins and outs. David Parkin, you've got them.
I have, and I think they're in a bit of trouble in the sense that neither Bell Chambers or Goddard came out. They've lost Jeddah. I know he's been dropped. Hocking injured again, went off and not back in, and Young Myers. Winderlick, Dempsey, and Dempsey's come back pretty quickly, boys, hasn't he? Got back into the good books and back in the side, and he can play, so I think that'll make them better. I reckon Essendon's best, and I've seen them, 4 rounds, I think. Essendon's best, and they had that against North, Hawthorn and Carlton. They didn't beat Hawthorn, was terrific, but their games against Fremantle and St Kilda have almost been at the other end, so the variation in their team performance, I can't quite understand why. And I think the 2 debates, one is the coach coming out and whacking their players for not being properly recovered for the next game, and I'm not sure what his reason for doing that was. And then this constant debate that we've got with Carlisle forward or back, and the same with Hurley. I'm not sure how you see that.
I like Carlisle when the ball falls on him, and he does his great work when he's behind. Lynchy, you're the only one on this panel who's played as a forward and as a key backman as well. Now, he complains to the umpire there.
Yeah, he's obviously getting a little frustrated. He's probably actually listening to the media a fair bit. I have no doubt from the early stages of last year, he was the All-Australian centre-half back. So he was really good. Now, this is last year against Cloke. He's big, he's athletic, he plays from behind. So he uses his forward as a starting point, then uses his athleticism to get past. As a forward, you've got to dictate your starting point and actually get to the drop of the ball
and
more.
You have to trust your teammates to kick it slightly to advantage at least.
And it's about work rate as well, because as you'd know better than I, about playing the centre-half forward, about work rate, presenting all the time, you don't get the ball. I think at the moment, he's disappointed he's not in line for an All-Australian defender's spot. He looks like he's disappointed with that, and he's not working hard enough. He's got to realise at the moment, and he's got to take it as a positive. They see me as the best forward option they've got. So he's got to get up there and work extremely hard. It's not going to happen on a weekly basis, but he's the best key forward at the moment, with young Danaher obviously inexperienced, played 10 games or something like that.
It's going to be a beauty though.
Be a ripper, but he needs support. So Carlisle's the man. He's got to take that on for the next year or so and build himself into a quality forward.
3 weeks ago, he was nearly best on ground, filling in the ruck.
Absolutely.
Why would you throw Danaher in the ruck as a young bloke who could do his knee, use Carlisle as the second ruckman if Bell Chambers isn't playing and Ryder's not playing?
Can't keep him in cotton wool the whole career.
Yeah, you've got to let it... Oh, yeah, well, he's 18, he's 19.
I want to ask you, give us the way you would have spoken to Carlisle if you were coaching him, and some of the efforts from the weekend. Give us one sentence what you would say to him. That perhaps.
No, pretend you're speaking to me in 1988.
Well, you recall it. What did I say? What did they tell you?
You idiot.
Keep presenting. Just got to work great. Keep presenting. You actually did say get off the ground because you're trying to take mark of the year at one stage. But no, it's about presenting.
Fantastic. All right, start with you, Lynchy. Who are you going for?
I am going to go for the Pies. Just.
Collingwood by a country mile.
Yeah, I'm with Parker.
I'm halfway between you guys. I think Collingwood comfortably. Is 4 to 6 goals a country mile?
Yeah, it's close enough.
All right, I'll go for the Magpies.
Scoring of this year, isn't it?
As well. Okay, let's have a look at the second game up for grabs on Anzac Day. It is the Saints in New Zealand up against the Brisbane Lions. St Kilda's won 4 of their last 5 over Brisbane. Let's have a look at the St Kilda Rexona. Ins and outs, Lynchy. Get them under your arm.
Yeah, they're absolutely flying, the Sainers. And as you said, the in is Shane Savage out for Schneider, who's gone out suspended. I think the talking point, obviously there's been a lot of talk about the young players. I think what obviously Alan Richardson has done here, and have a look at some of these players like Rewalt, Lenny Hayes, Montagna, even Farron Ray, he's gone there with the Kane Corns mentality of I'm here not to end your career but to extend it. Those players, and when you've got a young group, they're your most important players because they've got to carry the team. I think those players are leading beautifully with the likes of Billings, like Templeton, Curran and even Dunstan. And
How
I think
good was the
Dunstan's a ripper.
talent from Billings by foot last weekend?
Yeah, well, I think he's an extremely talented player. The one I want to focus on is, and probably I, like a lot of commentators, were very critical of the McAvoy trade as far as what they were giving away for what they were getting in return, with Shane Savage coming and pick 18. If you look at pick 18, it's young Luke Dunstan. He's flying in the midfield. And let's have a look at the recruits out of the draft last year. At number 5 as far as rankings, Cade Kolajasny at 5, and he's at 66 ranking points average per week. Luke McDonald's been a ripper off half-back. Matt Crouch at Adelaide Crows has been outstanding with 76 points each week. Joshua Kelly, obviously a high draft pick at GWS. But this man here from South Australia, I think he was the South Australian under-18 captain, Luke Dunstan, has been an enormous find. So the fact that he can go in the midfield with the likes of Montagna and certainly Hayes is a great plus for the club. So maybe we've got to focus on more what comes to the club rather than what they lost. Because I think they've picked up a really good player there.
You remember how Scotty
Savage
Watters,
as well.
a mate of mine, he actually had Dunstan's name written up on a whiteboard at home before they drafted him.
Yep.
Yeah, they earmarked him. They really wanted him. And he said he was going to be good to go right from the word go. Let's have a look at the Brisbane Lions now, Parko, the ins and outs.
Well, they've been pretty savage, I would suggest to him. The 5, Maloney, Lyle, Berwick and Golby and Payne have all gone, all been omitted, none of them injured. And I think Merritt, I mean, you can't go in with your 3 top players missing last week, which in fact Richard Leuenberger and Merritt's back. Rains and Polkinghorne have played enough to suggest they bring some experience. Hanley's been a ripper, I reckon. He really can play, and Green will add. So they're a far better combination. They've been so inexperienced. They got smashed in both the contested possession and contested marks, and they haven't been able to keep the ball in possession at all in comparison to other sides. They've got a few shining lights, I reckon. Young Mays, I saw Cutler at the weekend, I think can play. And Ace, we've known since the moment he was drafted, he really can play the game.
Cutler finds it on the outside, doesn't he?
He does.
Just as we get your tip after it, Lynchy, I don't think there's another team who could have afforded injuries less than Brisbane.
Yeah, and they lost their very best quality. So I'm going to tip the Brisbane Lions because they've played once in Wellington and they won that game by 40 points in 2001. So they've got the home ground advantage.
13 years ago.
Hey, experience in that ground, the Cape Tin.
Hey,
Did you play in that game?
Yeah, I did.
Yes.
that's what you call, ladies
How
and
many goals you
gentlemen.
kicked, mate?
No, I was playing full back that day.
Just one- oh,
so I only
you-
kicked
Yeah,
two.
how many goals you kick? That is what you call tipping with hope. All right, so we all going for the Saints apart from you?
Yeah, Saints.
All right, Saints
No
all
doubt.
round. We're going to go to a break now. Next, the North Boys and Freo. Who's that? You squeezed my brains out, Lynchy.
You deserve to get bitten then.
Yeah, Roosie came in on time.
Time shakes. Trouble, make it, yeah, that's your middle name. I know you
All right,
know
welcome back to
that
League
you're stuck
Teams.
in
Brent
my
Harvey
brain.
and Ryan Crowley last year set to renew acquaintances. Oh, the midfielders. I've been tagged, Lynchy.
Oh, someone's within my space.
Ah, yes. Send him forward as a stay-home forward. An amazing player, Brent Harvey. You're drawing the tags because you're such a champ, and Ryan Crowley loves taking down blokes like that, guys. All right, we'll see what happens this weekend. Let's have a look at the Fremantle and North Melbourne game now. As I said, from Patterson Stadium this weekend. And thank you to the Rexona ins and outs. Lynchy, once again, you got the Dockers.
Yeah, got the Dockers. Saw him last week at the SCG. Crozier in with Sheridan. Ballantyne out suspension. I don't think that went overly well with Coach Ross Lyon. Taberner has been omitted, struggled to get into the game, especially in that first quarter up there at the SCG. But I think the big thing that I noticed, they were outworked by the Sydney Swans. They need to get back to getting Johnson and McFarlane on the ball. They struggled with their run, their intercept possessions. They only had 5 between the two of them last week, where the week before they had 19 with big disposals as well. So
Teams are taking down Johnson now,
absolutely,
aren't they? Yeah.
their wingers roll back to try to free up a Johnson or a McFarlane, and then they can run off. They certainly didn't have that last week, and as I said, they were just out-muscled and out-tackled by the Sydney Swans, who eventually got their polish up and going. But I think this week they've got to get the run off half-back. It'll be a big difference from them, the way they went about it last week, I'm sure.
Shorty, what do you think of the Hayden Ballantyne suspension?
Oh, just stupid. Just totally stupid. He's a very important part to that team, and Ross Lyon deserved every second he gave it to him, probably, I think, in front of the other players too. So, just why would you even go down that track of getting yourself in that issue, into that issue?
Gee, you went
thought he
light
was-
on him.
Oh,
Right into the ad break. I
He's lucky to get one, wasn't he?
think he was pretty fortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, he was fortunate, but how dumb is it? You just You worry about blokes like that.
You can't ask me whether it was Dublin or I've been up there
yeah,
more
yeah,
times
exactly.
about hot dinners. Okay, let's have a look at the North Melbourne team now. Shorey, back to you, sir.
Yeah,
Wells out with a foot. That's got a lot of hurt.
Oh, Wells will hurt. And also Scotty Thompson through suspension. That wasn't great either. Curry gets dropped. Had a shocking game last week. Big bloke. He's still learning the game, but have to learn a lot quicker as a key forward. But some good ins. Nahas is a small forward. Zeeble and Majak Dor will take Curry's spot. Needs to mark the ball. But there's got some issues. Their forward line at the moment is really struggling. Only averaged 7 marks inside 50. So when we say that, probably 4 or 5 of them are very shallow entries. But the main thing is they keep going to Drew Petrie. And this is what's happening to Drew. Now, he plays his 250th game, so he has been a very good player, this bloke. But they keep kicking the 2-on-1s to their tools. Look at that. Yeah, the chances of marking that, well, Curry, one, you don't want to go to him too often unless you've got ground level support. And look at the numbers Collingwood get back here. There's 3 there to 2. There's another one there. They still don't mark. The back falls over. Now, he's not a crumbing player. He's a marking player. That's the issue they've got. They need, one, not to go to Drew so many times. It's not his fault all the time. The big thing, Tarrant's not playing, because he was a good lead-up player, would take space, and other blokes had to go with him. But well done to Drew Petrie. I reckon he's been one of the greats of the North Melbourne Footy Club.
Absolutely. They have no real crumbing player, though.
No.
I mean, they've got...
Lindsay Thomas doesn't
a
do it.
lead-up player.
Yeah.
Even though he's small... so
Maybe
they lack
Brent
for-
Harvey's got to do that for the rest of his career, at the end of his career, try and get 2 goals a game out of him.
He's the one that's been cutting games open for them.
They need his
by
run in the
running
middle.
through.
Well,
They need
he's
him in the middle.
39.
He's
You reckon you'll
35.
find someone else to do it, wouldn't you?
That's right. I think at their best, they hit up those 35-metre passes just inside forward 50 rather than being too predictable and going long. So they've got to get back to that.
All right, who are you going for, Lynchy?
Freo.
Freo.
Oh, Freo.
Freo all around. Let's go on to our next game now. It is the Gold Coast, and they are taking on the GWS Giants. Gold Coast have won 3 of their last 4 outings against them. Metricon Stadium, Saturday afternoon, 1:40 p.m. And Alistair with the Rexona ins and outs. Matty Warnock finds the Magoos.
Yes, he's found the Magoos, and that's probably on the back of their back line really starting to stand up in Stephen May and Rory Thompson. Into the side comes Timmy Sumner, so he comes back in. But this team's starting to really develop now. They've got young players across half-back in Colin Jasny and Lemons. Good young players with the experience of, say, a Broughton there. But I think where it has changed for them, where they will start to push up towards the top 8, I don't think they'll play finals this year, but the fact that Day and Lynch are starting to mark the ball forward. That's a big turnaround, because I strongly feel that you need to have at least one forward that you can put on his head and he's going to kick 40 or 45 goals to even think about playing finals footy. Now, those guys may get there, but I just don't think they're quite there, but they're showing some fantastic signs at this stage.
Some great signs. If they win this one, they turn 4-2 after 6 games, almost a third of the way through the season. Let's have a look at the GWS Giants. They've strung a few wins together this season as well, Parker. You have Green out and also Kelly with a hamstring.
And they've got close on a couple of others too. I think they have got better, but gee, I was disappointed. I know they got annihilated by the Crows on the weekend, particularly after half-time. Caniglio was good, I love that, and so was Green, and now Green's out. I think he got suspended. You know that the loss of, we know, Mumford and Davis and Shaw's back in this week. They'll be Alvin Palmer. They've gone for a long period of time. But I was really disappointed because the 3 young players who've shown a fair bit of potential, Patton and Cameron, have been great, were both poor, and of course Boyd playing his first game, played a bit on the ruck and came on as a substitute. They were pretty disappointed. I think they're the 3 key guns I reckon they have for the future. Maybe the supply wasn't good enough. But on the plus side, they're number 3 in scores from clearances in the competition. They're number 4 from holding the ball inside their 50, and they're number 1 in out-tackling their opponents each week. So they've got some
Plus 11
positive
on
things going.
tackles on the competition, I think.
Yeah.
So they're not scared
fantastic.
of going in there and mixing it up. But can anyone see the GWS creating an upset?
No. Suns for mine.
Suns all round. Let's move on to our next game now. This is an absolute beauty as well. Carlton take on the West Coast Eagles. West Coast have won 3 of the last 4 over the Blues. It is Saturday twilight. We will see this one. The Rexona ins and outs. Shorey, the Blues.
Oh, look, they were fantastic last week, especially when the Western Bulldogs came at the end of the game. They had a lot of injuries. I thought Robbie Warnock probably played his best game of league footy that I've seen, and I think he didn't get in the top 3 votes in a lot of... I thought he was so influential. Well done to Mark Murphy and Bryce Gibbs. You know, when you're tested and you're questioned about your leadership, they both stood up. And I know the Bullies didn't have it. They looked like they were a bit flat, but that's not the key. Had 2 key forwards, Jared Waite and Lockie Henderson. I just thought that they stood up at a time when they needed them to stand up. So I think the Bullies were ripe for the picking. and they got him at the right time. But it was a really courageous win, and it hopefully might start him on the bigger and better things.
Doggies are half disappointing at the moment in actual fact as
Yeah.
well. We'll get to them in their game. Let's have a look at the West Coast Eagles now, Parko.
Interesting ins and outs. Doom, Schofield, Lycett's the other tall forward, Ruckman, who can play, and McGovern. Glass going out. I'm surprised. I've got other people who got 1 week for that.
He's lucky
I
for
thought
one.
he should be put in jail.
week.
Put in jail for it. Ellis,
Probably a little over the top. But I know where you're coming from, Parko.
Ellis,
Well, you didn't bite him or anything.
Ellis again with another calf. The old man's he's had a few of those problems. And Hill was a very poor player, and you expect him in a minute. I was disappointed because I thought they might have been able to stay, but Port Adelaide ran over them like they'd run over most other teams in the last quarter, so they were caught out. But they're not getting results. They have a forward line which is made up of Kennedy, Darling, Natanui and Cox. They're just getting not enough marks, contested marks, and then not enough conversion of that into goals. I think for a side that we all look at and say that's got a terrific front-end structure, it's just not happening for them. So number one still in winning the ball back inside their own 50, and that is the most consistent of any team in that area.
18 months ago, Josh Kennedy was the most effective forward I thought that they had. Now he's almost been overtaken by Darling because he gives them movement. But back to Kennedy, this is his run-up from years ago. We love it. We
Round
love
four.
it.
That was round four
Well,
this year.
this year, yeah.
Yeah, that's
10
round
days
ago.
one.
He didn't. The stutter was gone. I think you need it back. You need the stutter because. You know,
And so is the accuracy.
but that is one round. That's one round of football, and the stutter's gone. But look, you don't have to have a great run-up to be a very good, accurate kick. And a former teammate of mine. Have a look at this for a style, boys. That is James Manson. Now look, that's from about 35 out. Just gets over the line. But I tell you what.
Teammate of mine at Fitzroy as well.
Well, James,
isn't he?
he's got that horrible jumper
He
on.
never
but that-
misses?
Well, he never misses when he's in front. But from 30 out, James Manson hardly missed because he knew
I'm
his
with you.
limitations. He was fantastic.
And he was true to his actions and worked on it. And yeah, he was just robotic in front of goal 30 metres
And I
out.
like playing with him because I could kick the ball further than him. It was great. That's saying something.
Anthony.
Okay.
No, Anthony. The only thing he was good at was playing the guitar.
He was a
Oh,
good
he
guitar
was a-
player, they reckon, yeah?
No, he's a good player, Park. He liked hurting people on the ground.
He's a great scrapper
I love
on the
him.
ground. yeah.
One thing you didn't want to be with him in the warm-up pre-game. He went off his head. He used to break lockers. Insane.
He was great.
Insane.
I heard that, yeah. Hey, okay, this is a tough one to tip. Carlton or West Coast, Lynchy?
For some reason, I'm going West Coast to bounce back.
David?
West Coast.
Yeah, I'll go West Coast too. I don't know. Carlton were pretty good. No, I'm going West Coast.
Carlton, for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Over
going Carlton. Ah, fantastic. Let's cross to the offices of Matthew Campbell with all the latest odds. Matthew, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Dan.
Oh, good. I'm looking at your tie. I would say that colour is capricciosa.
And here I was thinking orange was the new black. Anyway, it's a very big Anzac Day tomorrow. First up, the main event. And since the Bombers lost to the Saints last week, it's been all one-way traffic for the Magpies. Now into $1.60, with the Bombers, who are at one stage at $1.67, now out to $2.35. And a good pointer for punters, no money for the Bombers at the line of 8.5 points. It seems the surprise packet of the season so far, the Saints, will continue on their way in windy Wellington, in from $1.77 to $1.40. Once again, the Lions on the drift. They're at $2.95, but theoretically you can write your own ticket on Lepers Boys at the moment. The final game in the West, and like the Saints, all the money is for the Dockers, who have shortened from $1.44 to $1.28, with the Kangas out to $3.75. And recent history between the two teams suggests it won't be a close game, so the Dockers by 4 goals or more at the line is a viable option. Now, Anzac Day medal markets are available on all 3 matches, but with the Collingwood midfield heavily tattooed, and they're a good chance of winning. So for the MCG match, we've got the inked or not market with a clean skin favourite at $1.45 and inked at $2.65. The players are nominated on the page, but of course, Beam, Swan, Cloak, Chapman, Elliott and the like. And finally, just a quick one on Saturday night, the Demons hosting the Swans. With Buddy being in the news, we have a market for him to kick 4 goals exactly at $6.50. That's 4 goals, 1 for each car.
So, Matthew, what if he kicks more goals than he crashed cars?
Well,
You've got to go out and
then it's going to be a very interesting trip for him home.
Matthew, thank you very much. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, mate.
Just to make him feel better, they put airbags in the goalpost this week for Buddy.
Oh, yeah, you couldn't leave it alone, could you? Going to a break now, and on the other side, the best exponents of the torpedo, as the players say.
best, other than myself.
Jago O'Meara, Scott Pendlebury.
That's a tough one.
Buddy.
Nick Naitanui.
Sean Burgoyne.
Sammy Mitchell.
Paddy Dangerfield. Gary Ablett. Cyril Rowley.
Yeah, good one.
Best at kicking tops. It's a lost art in football. Matthew Watson from Carlton.
Dustin Fletcher kicks a mean barrel.
The best at kicking a top, Josh Hunt.
Dustin Fletcher.
Best tops would be Dustin Fletcher.
Best at kicking a barrel is Dustin Fletcher.
Dustin Fletcher gets the nod for pulling it back and unloading the barrel, the big torpedo, the spiral, whatever you want to call it. Have a look at this one, Lynchy from downtown.
Oh, it's outstanding to see that, and he used to flush him as well. But he should get the votes because he tries more than anyone else, and so he should because he does hit them very nicely.
He monsters it off the boot. Now, this is the list, and this is what the players voted. They all said Dustin Fletcher. 76% of them said he was the best going. Goddard, Watson, Hodge, and Hunt. What you said at home on foxfooty.com.au, Dustin Fletcher 57, Watson, Hodge, Hunt, and Goddard slips back to 5th. This week, we would like to know who the best candy man is. The person who sells the best candy, the blind turn, the balk, dupes somebody else into thinking they're going to do something and then they do the other. David Parkin, you're going to take us down memory lane for your favourite piece of candy or candy man.
And I can't believe it, I've got 2 Collingwood players, but Phil Manassa in the replay of the 1977 Grand Final sells the candy. Not only does he sell it, he puts it away for the winning goal.
Hey.
Unbelievable.
That's a great goal.
Watch the finish of that. Unbelievable.
You could argue that's the goal of the century.
Not another
The bloke I
Collingwood.
recruited later on in his career, not great success with Carlton, I have to say. He just kept going. He kept selling candy from the middle circle until he finally kicked the goal. I cannot believe. Look at the defence. Look at Brownie not
He's
chasing.
Brownie knows business is going well.
Gee. That is fantastic.
So you've had a couple of Collingwood blokes in there but couldn't get Shorey in there? No, didn't sell any?
I never balked once in my career. Well, I knew I was going to get caught. You just don't do it. You just fancy me going like that and someone smother him into the ground and you idiot. But anyway.
You do. I've got it on the list here. You have a bloke who I reckon was the most, I'm going to make up a word here, untackleable bloke I've ever seen play the game.
Yes, you did make up that word. His name's Maurice Rioli. He was the untackleable, but he was a great tackler himself. But this is what he could do, and it's only a short snippet, but he did that a million times over, playing for WA. Who marks this ball there? We're trying to see who that Victorian player was, but if anybody knows it, you win a car. I'm only joking. But he was fantastic. And of course, he's got his nephew who you do love.
Oh, look, my candy man.
here we
It's
go.
just, where do you start? Here's Cyril. Oh, sell 1, sell 2, and kick a goal. Let's have a look at it from the other angle. Pendlebury even falls for the candy from behind. Yeah, oh no, he's gone. Why didn't you do it Monday, Cyril? Okay, let's have a look at this one too. Now, this was goal of the year about 4 or 5 years ago. 1, 2, 3. I'll give it back. Give it to Cyril. Oh, yes, now we're on fire!
He's excited. I'll tell you what, Derm, just while you settle down, if we're going to have Candyman, you've got to make sure you get it right. If you're going to sell candy, get it right. Let's go back to the 99 prelim final. Dean Wallace for the middle of the ground. Game's a point the difference. Brownie's actually tackled. Yeah, Brownie's tackled him. Didn't want to get Mick McGraw before, but it's a great tackle. And the Blues go through to the GF. Hey, you've got to get it right.
He actually put no candy onto that. He just went, that's the route I'm taking.
You got every one of Cyril's possessions in the last 4 years in that one bit of... So you are unbelievable. They were good, I've got to say.
Weren't they worth the wait? Let's go to our next game now. Melbourne take on the Sydney Swans. Melbourne's only won one of the last 9 encounters here, and Shorey, the Rexona ins and outs, and the Melbourne team.
Well, just a big in with Mark Jamar back into the side. Spencer's been admitted. Great to see Salem in for his first game too, because as a youngster he can play the game. That's great. Shannon Burns gets a go. Look, they were really against Gold Coast Suns. They never looked like winning the game. They were competitive. I love the way they go. Chris Dawes really straightened them up. He had a fantastic game. 10 score involvements, 2 goals for. If you kick straight, it would have been a brilliant game. Just one thing. Jake Carlisle, we talked about him. Jeremy Howe, they've got an issue about. I don't think he's a defender at all. I know they're trying things for all he goes forward, but I don't think Jeremy Howe's. You need him deep. Whack him in the 4 line. Say you can work around 20 metres from goal and just lob it there when you don't hit anybody else inside 50.
Yeah, it can be that third tall forward, which would be good. So with Dawes there, they don't have to kick it on Howe's head. So
Well, put it on Dawsey's head so he can jump on top of
it.
Dawsey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at the Sydney Swans team now, the ins and outs. Lynchy?
Yeah, just one change, and it's a massive in. Adam Goods, I don't think he's trained too much. We haven't heard too much about it. Brandon Jack goes out of the side, but when they thought they were going to get Kurt Tippett back this weekend, after his half a game in the twos, got the broken rib, so he's out for another week. I thought Shaw, Malcheski off halfback were outstanding. Hanbury and McVeigh had their best games for the season, and I know Kennedy's been pretty good so far, averaging 28, but had 39 put on a clinic last week. But it was the tackling effort. They had 102 tackles against 66 Fremantle Dockers, but they started. We know their midfield is an inside, hard at it midfield, but they got the overlap run. There was plenty of handball received, so that was the difference. But in that first half, they worked hard to get to that stage to get the overlap run.
Is he the sub like Chris Judd was a sub last week? Does Goodsy become the sub for the Sydney side?
Yeah, I think they'll be confident he can make it, but yeah, he probably starts at sub.
Yeah.
Clean sweep for Sydney Swans, guys?
Yep.
All round, we're going for Sydney. Okay, the Western Bulldogs take on Adelaide, and they have won 5 of their last 7 over the Crows. It's at Etihad Stadium, 1:10 p.m. on Sunday. Parko for Rexona, the ins and outs, the Western Bulldogs.
Some huge outs in the sense that I thought Williams had reached the stage in his career that he was going to become a competent centre-half back. Had a couple of bad weeks, so he's gone.
And Wallace
the same way as a tagger. I'm surprised at. But they've got in young Honeychurch, who's a kid, I think picked 60 in the 2013 draft. Comes
Good
from
pre-season.
Yeah, Eastern Rangers, one of their premiership players last year, small midfielder, so that's a good in for them. But look, they dropped off badly, and you hate picking these things out, but they were at the end of 2013 the best contested team in the competition. Everybody understood that. That's the way they played. You cannot believe that the end of after round 5 this year, they're back to 17 in that department.
It's a monumental drop, isn't it?
Yeah, that has something to do with attitude, hasn't it? I've been in education long enough, and you blokes would know. So that to me is a terrible disappointment. They're conceding too many scores defensively as well. I love Griffin. I mean, Griffin just comes up as an A grader every week. He's been terrific. And while Dalhouse, McRae and Stephen are the 3 bright hopes I think they've got at the moment.
Okie doke, let's take a look at the Adelaide Crows, the ins and outs. Shorey, Andy Ottens looks like he has a chance to come back into this team.
Yeah, well, look, they need Andy Ottens, and I'll just talk about Ben Rutten a bit shortly, but it's a good thing. Look, they had a good win, against the Giants, but their disposal was fantastic because they didn't have any pressure out there during the day. 44% of defensive one-on-ones Ben Rutten has been losing this year. I think Ben Rutten might struggle to be in their best 22 at the moment, and that's exactly why Andy Ottens comes back in. He'll probably play forward, Ottens, no one trying to make a defender into a forward the way he does it. But let me tell you, Patrick Dangerfield, again, the pressure was low, but superstar players. He hasn't had a great year, I haven't thought, but he just dominated that game. Probably as good an individual game I've seen from a midfielder for a long period of time.
What about Dangerfield's 5 goals in the first half was outstanding. I mean, the way he just tore the game apart, 30-plus disposals, 5 goals. But goals like this, and like burst from the centre circle, breaks the square, hits the 50-metre arc and kicks a goal. And that absolutely reminds me, go back a few years to Chris Judd, played us at the Gabba in 2003. He also had 5 goals at half-time, put on an absolute clinic. What? He did. And this is when Brisbane...
I called this game, Lynchy.
Brisbane were going for a three-peat, but he just tore us apart. Young Chris Judd had hair as well, and just absolutely destroyed us. And his strength over the ball and his ability to separate from class midfielders, I think our midfield at the time was the best going around, he just ripped them apart.
Well, you had the Fab Four, didn't you?
Yeah, I reckon we could have gone deeper than that. It was an outstanding performance. So it reminded me about
I don't mind you bringing it up. It's the second time you've gone back 11 years to pinpoint something, and you were involved in both those games.
Well, I played, yeah, absolutely.
What'd you do in this game?
I might have kicked 8.
You kicked 8. You stopped 2. You had 2 kicked on you as fullback last time.
No,
you kicked 8. This is about you, isn't it? It was about you, not Juddy.
Oh, you brought that up. I just remember the game. He kicked 5. I was pumping Juddy out. I did kick 8.
Look, he did call up this highlight. Let's have a look at the best of Lynchy's 8 from the day. This is a really tough one to kick, Lynchy.
I've claimed it. I've claimed it.
It's a back heel.
Oh, that's magnificent. What were the other 7
hold on, look at this. Look, total control. This is embarrassing, isn't it?
Had it been a watermelon, you would have drowned.
But how bad's that? I've jumped up, smiling, giving high fives everywhere.
You've turned around and given it this one.
I'm putting on the clinic here.
1 of 8. 1 of 8.
But you got a few 8s that year, didn't you?
I could have picked out a few.
Okay. Oh, beautiful. Have we got the record here? Well, we'll go for the tips first. Sorry, before we go to that. Who are we going for?
I'm going the Western Bulldogs beat out. They didn't have any pressure last week, Adelaide. I'm going to Bullies.
I'm going to go to Crows.
I'm with you. Crows.
I'm going Crows. I reckon Crows will turn the corner. I reckon they're just about to turn it on. Maybe not top 4, but I reckon they're going to creep up.
Yep.
Okie doke, let's go to a break. Plenty more to come. On the other side, the Tigers and the Hawks. But before we do, what about the record? A $5 as you're walking through the gate, or the app. You can get it for your iPad or your smartphone, whatever you want, put it on. And as Lynchy has that, actually, this is one to get and keep as a collector's item. The Anzac Day records are always worth keeping and putting away. Okay, a break. On the other side, the Tigers and the Hawks.
I don't need to try to control you. Look into my eyes and I'll own you with them moves like Jagger. I've got them moves like Jagger. I've got them moves like Jagger. Maybe it's hard when you feel like...
Des, I was a young journo at the age in the mid-70s, and I wrote a story suggesting that it might be time for the great Des Tuddenham to hang the boots up and preserve his reputation. You didn't like that, did you?
I didn't, no. You're wrong.
You threatened to do some damage to me at Saul, didn't you?
Yeah, I grabbed your shirt, but I knew that that shirt wasn't fitting you well enough. It was one of those angry moments that I'd watch a journalist write something and I thought, well, I'm not ready to retire, and so I took a reaction to it.
You did?
I did.
The great Des Tuddenham on Open Mic 9:30 Monday with Mike Shearn. That will be a compulsive view. And Des Tuddenham,
tough man.
What a competitor! One of the great competitors.
The only bloke I ever punched on the footy field.
Why?
Because he trampled little Peter Crimmins to death and
idiot.
then left him on the ground dead. And I chased up. He wasn't looking. I hit him. I busted that. That's the bust that I'm going about. And he didn't even look around to see who did him.
That's got to be tough
pathetic.
to take. If you don't register any pain on them. Okie doke, let's take a look at the Tigers and the Hawks. Richmond is the only current team to beat the Hawks in their last 2 meetings. Lynchy, the Rexona, ins and outs for the Tigers.
We've got the expanded squad with Matty Thomas out with knee injuries. So, I mean, the Tigers need to bounce back. They got the 4 points last weekend, but it was nothing to be proud of outside the 4 points. They were pretty scrappy. They weren't able to move the ball quickly. Once they did start kicking the ball long and exposing the Lions' defence, that was their greatest asset. And I think that run-off halfback is very important. With the likes of Morris, Grimes been very good down back there. Vlosten's got to get into the game, but their midfield has got to work certainly longer, harder, and they've got to go deeper and get the ball in very quick. But 4 points was all they got out of last week's game. They'll be looking for a much better performance up against a really talented side in the Hawks.
The Tigers are one of only 2 teams who've beaten the Hawks since the 2012 season. This time it's a bit different for them, the way they're playing. Parko, let's have a look at the ins and outs for the Hawks.
Some interesting things. This is the first loss, isn't it, that Hawthorn have had? I think from round 19 last year right through the pre-season, so that'll sting them a bit.
They don't lose often, do they?
They don't lose very often, do they? But what is more interesting, Dermot, I know you see this as a Hawthorn man, but who's the one who's going out from that interchange from? And I've got a terrible feeling it might be young Cheney, who I think's been superb up until this stage. Hallahan's come in and done extremely well. Young Billy Hartung, I see, is in Derm. He's a terrific endurance runner, midfielder, was first choice in their 2013 draft. So it's going to be interesting to see. You think if they bring you in there, they'd probably play him. I was fascinated, though, in the finish with what happened with the Hawkins setup on Cheney and the way that, first of all, Geelong set that up to make it work. The inability of either Gibson or Stratton to come across and actually defend that was interesting because they spread it so well, and often Gibson's run to get over the top as third man was blocked. But I was just surprised that at no stage, and I think you made the point, 2 goals only, Hawkins are kicked by three-quarter time.
Three-quarter time.
I thought I might have made the shift to have either Stratton or Gibson play directly on Hawkins.
Perhaps Gibson. They do so well, Geelong, though. They force you into areas you don't want to go. They force their opposition backmen to chase them out of an area where they want to stay in.
Yeah.
And I thought they were very, very good, Geelong, at separating the Hawthorn backman, who, as you call, assist the key backman, Kyle Cherney. 187 centimetres against Tommy Hawkins, who's about 190, 97, 198 and 108 kilos.
It shows clearly here, and particularly
That's
the fact that
Gibson's
Gibson can't highlight there, that Gibson can't get to the contest and help Cherney out. For Cherney's size and shape, he's done brilliantly. Same again this time. I mean, it's a bit hard on the lead. Space was there given, but again, the third man never got into a position to be able to come over and help the smaller defender.
Should they go with Sheedy again, just because he's done it all over pre-season, 4 games he's been good, and the one where he shouldn't be in this matchup as much? Should they have faith in him to be the third man now that he's developed in a person who can play on big bodies? On a third,
Absolutely.
he should be able to cope with it?
I think he deserves the right, because there's been this massive void of key defenders, and he's taken on the likes of Jonathan Brown, and obviously he's certainly outsized. I think he deserves the right to stay in.
But it looks like it won't.
He's not going to. He's going to go out of the
It's
side. I
Jack, it'd be Jack the one he'd go to, and they want to keep Gibson as that free man to come up over.
Yeah.
I don't know if Richmond are going to play them smart enough to absolutely separate them.
Can I
Gibson
add
will just
two very
pull off
small
and-
things?
Yep.
Go.
Delighted to see Hawkins actually engineer, set up and captain that forward 6. He was the one responsible, reminding they've got to be out there, you've got to be out there. He was placing them. He looked like a general doing the job, which I haven't seen him do before. And the second, I'd hate to criticise your love child, but Rioli and Bruce, a fantastic 2 and with the ball. Neither are working hard enough when they don't have the ball.
Cyril didn't quite get enough of it for my liking.
And Sean
But
Burgoyne 250, Sammy Mitchell
yes.
250.
good to see people who sacrifice their own game for the betterment of the team. Reminds me of a time, Shorey.
Oh, here we go.
Just hold those couple out, pretend to go for that mark.
Oh,
Go down there. Come back, Sav. Come back. I've got you covered. Yes, I've got you covered. There you go, big fella. Come on through.
There's 2 reasons you went down that track, because you took him under the wing because you wanted to get a coaching job after you retired, and you were only 2 games away from it there. And you came to us right at the end when your knees were shot and you couldn't jump. So you couldn't go anyway, so you just did that. You were fantastic.
Your role was really good. You had the 2 disposals and just kept out of the road all day. I thought it was outstanding. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Unselfish.
Yeah, good on you
Well, I'm
guys.
going to tip the
Okey-doke.
Hawks.
All the Hawks?
Yeah, Hawks.
Oh, yeah. Hawks.
Okie doke. Hawks all round. Let's go to, this is a massive game. Port Adelaide taking on Geelong. It should be a wonderful game. In fact, they've won their last 10 matches over Port, so the odds are in Port's favour at the moment. The Rexona ins and outs, Lynchy, for the power.
Well, no changes as yet. We see the names come into the squad, but a super impressive team. So dangerous up forward with Westhoff and Schultz, and then at ground level, the fact that Wingards and Gray can go through there as well. I love the work that Carlisle and Trengove are doing down back as well. You just thought that maybe they're going to be a bit light up against the big power sides, but it's going to be a good test for them this week. But I love their rotations through the midfield. So I think they're in a really good position. I think their team's starting to come together very nicely. Again, depth of talent is starting to go through. What they've done in the last 12 months has been amazing. So very confident with that squad they've got on the ground against the Cats this weekend.
Let's have a look at the ins and outs for the only team remaining undefeated, Shorey, the Cats.
Yeah, Andrew Mackie lost with a hamstring injury. Motlop comes back into the group. Look, they are fantastic, in great form at the moment. 1 out of 2 times they go inside 50, they score. That's how good it is. It's a great return.
Yeah.
But the big thing is they're number 1 for tackles inside 50. So they're doing it defensively, keeping it in.
So they let it out.
You talk about Tommy Hawkins. I thought Hamish McIntosh was great as that long option on the top of the square. Didn't take a lot of marks, but he got the ball to ground level and they just mopped up beautifully.
Dangerous enough to make sure that they
They kept the ball in.
Yeah,
The big one, though, look at this mark, boys. This is George Holland-Smith, a youngster trying to find his way. And this is how you win respect in a footy club.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he comes across. Hodgie, you don't know it's Hodgie coming the other way, but you keep your eye on the ball. I tell you what, this boy's going to play for a decade or more, and he won respect just in that one action. That's what you do to stay in this great Geelong side, and you also have to have skill.
Yeah, he's a gun player,
Yeah, he can
really
play, don't worry about
courageous, and don't last long on that side if you haven't got the courage.
I got to say, I actually, when I first saw him, I thought, he's a bit wishy-washy. He's a gun.
Yeah,
He's really
very good player.
Okie doke. Tommy Hawkins, let's have a look at his goal-kicking prowess and how he's gone about the task. Let's step it up from 2014, 15 goals, 10 at an accuracy of 56. Season 2013, 49-20, a big haul there, 60% accuracy. Thereabouts, 2012, 62-38, 56%. All right. How do you reckon Tommy likes kicking when he can actually half kick through it? What about in the last couple of years when he's outside 50?
Yep.
How's his accuracy gone here? Let's put that one up now. 50
Nine
plus
miss.
metres, 9 straight. He likes it.
And there's been a few of those, but absolutely crunch goals. And if you've got
Yeah.
your big forward kicking big goals from outside 50 at the
Oh.
right time, that's a huge asset. So no matter who he's playing on, you get the chances, you've got to take them.
Yeah, remind me about it when he got done the Hawks.
100%.
Did the Hawks
Yeah.
on the Friday night.
How good was that?
Yeah, that was
Who
great.
you go for?
Go and Port Adelaide over there.
Oh, yeah. Geelong just.
Nah, Geelong just, Tycho.
Port Adelaide for me as well. No, I reckon it could be a bit of an upset there. They run so hard. Well, the boys on 360 are up next. Robbo and Jared, you've been watching League Teams. We'll see you next week.
This has been a Fox Footy production for Fox Sports.